In this session I will show you how to use RStudio tool. So in order to install RStudio, you have to install and download and install R. So just go to this URL and you can easily download the file and install on your computer. Once you install R, you have to install RStudio on top of that. So you can go to this URL and download RStudio based on your operating system. So there are files available for Windows, for Mac, and for Linux as well. So once you install these two softwares, you can just go to Start and you can see this icon called RStudio. And if you don't find this RStudio icon, you can just type RStudio here and you will see this icon, right? So just click on that icon and RStudio will start. So this is the environment of the RStudio where we will write our code. So this this section is called console, and this section contains several tabs. One is files, plots, packages, help, and viewer. So this gives you the file browser of your computer, and on the top it is the global environment space where you will see all your variables. Okay, so let's start with our basic commands. So this is the console. Just click on the console and then you can start typing code. So first example is if you want to add two numbers. So I can just type 3 plus 4, and if I press enter, it gives me the output as 7. So you see you can easily add two numbers in R. The second command is that if I want to find out the exponential function of any value, so I can type exp and I can say give me the exponential function of -2. So when I press enter, you can see like I get the value of the exponent of -2. So if I wanted to generate some random numbers, I can use a function called runIf, and then in the brackets I need to specify how many numbers I need or how many samples I need. If I say 10, then it will give me 10 random numbers. And one important thing you should know is that if I want to go back to my previous command, I don't have to write it again. You can use your arrow keys, the up arrow key and down arrow key, to go through your previous commands. So if I press upper arrow key, then I can go to my previous commands, and if I press down arrow key, I can go to my latest commands. So in that way you can traverse through your commands as well. So if I say runIf 5, then it gives me 5 random numbers. Okay, I wanted to save these values to a variable. Then in that case I need to use an assignment operator. So let's suppose I created a new variable and I call it my_variable, and then I have to put the assignment operator. So the assignment operator is this one. So you have to write less than sign and then hyphen. So this is called assignment operator, and then I can say run if 10. So if I run this command, what it does, like it will generate 10 random numbers and it will save all these values in my variable. So if I press enter, then you can see right here on the global environment section I have a new variable called my_variable. So if I wanted to look at my_variable, I can just type my_variable. You can type the full name, or you can also use a tab button to complete your variable name. If I press tab, then you can see it auto completes my variable name. So if I press enter, then I can see all these values. Now I want to plot a scatter plot using these values. So I can type plot bracket and my underscore variable. When I press enter, on the right side you can see I got my scatter plot for the values I generated and saved in my underscore variable. So if you look at this plot, you can see that there's no colors in it. So if I wanted to put colors, or if I wanted to add colors in my plot, I can just type this plot function with additional parameters. I can just type comma, and then I can say COL, which stands for color, equals red. If I press enter, you can see my circles are changed from black to red color. Now if I wanted to fill these circles with color, I can also add another parameter which is called PCH. PCH is a parameter which sets the type and shape of your points on the plot. So if I say PCH equals 16 and press enter, you can see my circle is changed from empty circle to filled circle. So in that way you can change the shape of your points. So I can try some other numbers right here. I can just say 15. If I say 15, you can see my points change from circle to squares. So in that way you can change the color and shape of your points in your plot. You can also save this plot by click on the export button here, and you can choose save as image, save as PDF, and copy to clipboard, and so on. And if we wanted to zoom in this figure, you can just click on zoom and you can see a big picture of your figure. Okay, now there's one more command to clear the screen. If you have a lot of code on your screen, you can just clean this screen by using Control L. If I press Control plus L, it will clear my screen. And in the Mac you can also try Command or Control plus L. Okay, now if I wanted to clear all these figures, I can just say clear all. If I press clear all, it asks me, do you want to clear all the plots? If I say yes, then this area becomes empty. Now let's try to install some packages in R. So in order to install a package, you will use a command called install.packages bracket and the name of your package in quotes. So in this example, I am trying to install a package called mass, M-A-S-S. After completing your command, you can press enter and make sure you are connected to the internet, and it's now downloading and installing the package mass. And now the package mass is successfully unpacked and installed. Now once you install a package, you have to load that package into the R. So the command for loading the package is called library bracket, and then you can write the name of your package without any quotes. So I can just say MASS mass. If I press enter, you might get some warning, but there's no error, so it means that mass is loaded in my RStudio. Now we wanted to use one of the data sets which comes in this package, and this is called, and the data set is called painters. So when I type painters and press enter, you can actually see a data frame which contains some rows and some values. So basically this data set contains the painter names as rows and their attributes like composition, drawing, color, expression, and school. If you look at that thing, like my data set is not fitting in the screen, and you might have a very large amount of rows in your data set. So if I wanted to just look at few records of my data set, I can write a command called head painters and your variable name which contains the data painters. If I say head painters and press enter, you see like I am this command is showing me few records of my whole data set. So in that way you can just try to check, you can actually check if your data is good or if your data is properly loaded or not. Now I will show you how to access each component and elements in your data frame. Let me clear the screen by pressing Ctrl+L. Now if I wanted to access the first column of my data frame, I can just type painters square bracket 1. So you can see that I am only getting the first column of my data frame, but you can still see that I am also getting the row names as well and the column name as well. What if I wanted to perform some operation on just the values in that frame or in that column? So in order to just get the values of this column, I can use double brackets instead of single bracket. So I can just type painters double bracket and then 1. So if I press enter, then you can see I am only getting the elements in that column. Now if I wanted to perform some operation on that values, I can just type any function. For example, I can type hist painters 1. If I press this thing, you can see that I am getting a very nice histogram based on the values of the first column. Now you can see that this is a blank graph which have no colors. I can also put colors by adding a parameter called call equals blue. If I press enter, you can see all the bars are converted from white to blue. There are many color schemes in R which you can use to have different colors. So I can choose one of the color schemes, and the name of the color scheme is called rainbow, and in the brackets you want to specify how many colors you want for this graph. So if I say give me 10 different colors, so I can just type 10 and press enter. Now you can see that I am getting 10 different colors in my plot. There's another color scheme called heat maps. So instead of writing rainbow 10, I can just type heat, and if you press tab after writing heat, you can see that heat.colors and heat map. So I will select heat.colors by pressing enter, and then I can specify the number of colors I want. So I can say 8. If I close the brackets and if I press enter, you can see the color scheme changes from rainbow to heat colors. So this way you can change the colors of your plots based on your requirements. Now back to our data frame. I'll just clear the screen again. So we can also access the columns by using their column names. So let me print the column names again. Names painters. So we have 5 columns and they have their different names. So again, instead of writing 1, 2 or the position of the column, I can just type painters $, and composition. If I write this and if I press enter, you can see that I am still getting the the values or the elements of that column. Okay, so similarly, if I say painter's drawing, I can get the values or the elements of second column. So if you look at the last column, it contains some characters which represent the school of that particular painter. So if I wanted to count how many times A appears in this column or B appears in this column, I can use a new function called table, and inside table I can just type painters $school. If I press enter, now you can see that I can see the distribution of all the letters in that column. So for example, A appears 10 times in the column, B appears 6 times in the column, similarly H appears 4 times in the column. Now back to the whole data set. I can just clear the screen again. Painters. Now if you look at the row names, you can see that they are not sorted alphabetically. So what if I wanted to sort my whole data frame according to the alphabets? So I can use another function called orders, and I have to write the code like this. First of all, I need to sort the whole painters data set, so I have to write painters, and inside bracket I can use a function called order, and order, I need to order the data frame with respect to the row names. So I can just say row names painters, and as I told you, like before the comma it represents the rows, and after the comma it represents the columns. So if I don't put anything after the comma, it means all columns, and I want to order the rows based on row names. So if I write this command and if I press enter, then you can see that my data frame is sorted according to the names. So A comes first, then B, and it went to T and V. So you can see that my data frame is sorted according to the name of the painters. You can also search values in your data frames. For example, if I wanted to view all the records which have composition greater than 10, then how can I do that? I can just type painters bracket painters composition greater than 10 and all columns, and I press enter. You can see that I am only getting the records which have composition greater than 10. Now if I wanted to look at the records which have exactly 10 compositions, I can just type compositions equals 10. So if I do that thing and if I press enter, you can see that I am only getting those records which have composition equals 10. So this way you can search the records and you can filter out your records from the big data frame. Now the last thing I wanted to share is that how you can get some useful information regarding your variable. So let me clear the screen first, and there are many functions, built-in functions in R, which you can use to collect the information of your variable. For example, I wanted to know about the class of my variable painters, which has the data frame. So if I type class painters, you can see that it returns me a data frame, which means the painter is of type data frame. Similarly, if I wanted to find out the number of columns and rows in my painter data frame, I can just type DIM, which stands for dimensions, and if I say painters, then it returns me two values, and the first value tells me the number of rows in the data frame, and the second value tells me the number of columns in my data frame. So you can also use a command called length painters. So if painter is a data frame, then it always returns you the number of columns by default. So in that case, it returns 5, which is the actual number of columns in our data frame. You can also use length with other variables, like the variable which we created before. So I can just type length of my variable. If I press enter, you can see it gives the number of elements as 10. And if you guys remember, we generated 10 random samples and saved in this variable. So the length of my underscore variable is 10. So this is the end of demo tutorial. Now I wanted to show how we will use Linux server for our standard or full course. For the standard course, we will be using virtual machine to perform all our tasks. So you can run VMware player for the virtual machine, and you can see I have a pre-configured virtual machine which is called DSF. So if I choose DSF and I press play button, then it is loading my pre-configured virtual machine. So if you register for the full course or standard course, I will provide you this virtual machine image so that you can install that virtual machine on your local computer. As you can see, it's loading my virtual machine, and it's running Ubuntu operating system on it. So just wait until it asks me for the password. Now this is the data science floor virtual machine, and it asks me for the password. So now it's loading my desktop. So if you look at the taskbar, you can see that the RStudio is already installed in that virtual machine, and you can also look at some other tools. For example, pgadmin, which is database, is already installed in that virtual machine, and this database contains all our data sets which we'll be using in our course and to implement data mining algorithms. Also, Hadoop is installed in already installed in that virtual machine, so you don't have to install any kind of software or tool in it. So another very good thing about this virtual machine is that it also running RStudio server. So what is RStudio server? So if you look at the IP address of this virtual machine using ifconfig, you can see the IP address of this virtual machine. So you can basically access the RStudio server environment in your web browser. So if I open browser on my local computer, and if I open a new tab, and if I type my IP address of virtual machine 192.168.116.130 and colon 8787, and if I press enter, you can see that it is asking me for the username and password for RStudio server. So the username is dsfadmin, password, and you can see that by running that virtual machine you can actually access the R environment on your web browser. So in all our in all the tasks of our standard course, we will be using R in our browser. So is the same environment as you installed R in your local machine. You can type any command 3 plus 4, or you can generate random samples, run if 10, and so on. So as you see, like, it is very simple and convenient for you to run R on your web browser without installing anything. So so thank you very much for watching this video, and please visit datascienceflow.com for more information and for the registration information. Thank you.